Okay, it's close enough. Just gone past 8 o'clock on my clock. So far this retreat, it's Sunday today. Is that right? Okay, yeah, good. And third or fourth day. So now, hopefully, you're doing a bit more meditation than when you first started. Much of the tiredness, I hope, is gone. Of course, you have days when you're more tired than others, but still, the average energy should be building up. And a lot of that extra energy is because you're not doing very much. I hope. What's there to do? Your duties, you may just volunteer just to wash up afterwards. I always volunteer to eat. Well, we've got to share, somebody cooks, somebody's got to eat. And hopefully that you realize that a simple lifestyle, nothing much you need to do, does mean that your brain can relax. When the brain relaxes, it's got a bit more energy, and you can put that energy, first of all, you rest a bit, you feel a bit more sleepy, but then after a while, the mind really starts to wake up, and you have all this extra energy. And of course that extra energy, you can actually use if you want to think and fantasize and plan and write your autobiography, or I don't know what else you want to write. But of course that is a bit of a waste of time. When you have beautiful energy and you're on a rains retreat and no one's asking you to do anything, just take the opportunity and just see just how you can focus that energy inside. And as I mentioned earlier, that as you focus it inside and let the body go, and sit down and really relax that body. And for those of you with health problems, just learn how to relax the body so much that the health problems can be solved. And then as you go deeper, past the body to the mind, then the mental health problems. Anyone got any mental health problems here? Unless, yes, you all have. Unless you're fully enlightened, then you have. And so those mental health problems, just like the physical, it's an overreaction to life. An overreaction. Sometimes we blame people, sometimes we blame ourselves, but can you really blame yourself for what you do? Now, look at me. All those bad jokes which I tell. Where did those come from? It's not my fault. No, honestly. Because my father, he was from Liverpool, he always told these terrible jokes. I was brainwashed by him to tell jokes. And this is one of his jokes. It's an old joke, and please excuse me for this, venerable sisters. But my dad told me this joke, I remember telling it. And I was just a young teenager at the time. And his joke was, what fun does a monk have? Answer, none. Which is totally untrue. But when you grow up in a family like that, it's like traumatized. And I relive the trauma on others. It's just your character. So sometimes you don't blame the past. You just be kind to it, as I said yesterday, and learn how to see it disappear. So you can actually come into this present moment. And look, this present moment here, in the beginning to middle of a retreat in Jhana Grove. Great food, great accommodation, great teachings, bad jokes. What more can you want? And so sometimes to appreciate where you are means you don't want to waste that by stupid thoughts or just by any type of remembering negativity. So you let all that go and you're with some amazing people as well. Just of all the human beings on planet Earth, those who managed to get on a retreat are actually here. They're some of the pretty highest human beings you can meet. Just a good example of that, this always impresses me, as it should impress you, is the food you eat every lunchtime. Where does that come from? Do you pay for that? The lay people. There's many other things they could do on a Sunday. But right now, this moment, they're cooking for you. And they're trying to make it the best delicious food they possibly can. And they don't have to, they don't get paid for it. And they come all the way from usually Perth, sometimes the northern suburbs, sometimes from places like Bunbury or Rockingham or somewhere, Mandurah. And they come here and they offer it to you. Not just to the nuns, but to you as well. I think, wow, do I deserve this? You don't think if you deserve it or not. They just they love to give it to you. And that's always such an inspiration. If that doesn't inspire you, just what an incredible place this is. I tell this story every retreat which I give here, that this floor on this side which you are sitting on, you know who laid that floor? And what time they laid it? That was the monks. Ajahn Santuti, Brahmali, they were up here till about 4 a.m. in the morning, all night, finishing the floor, before we had our opening ceremony. Because you know what it is, if any of you live in or work with the building industry, they always promise you months in advance, oh, you'll be finished, no problem at all. And when I told the person who's supposed to be in charge of the building here, I said, are you sure? He said, and she said to me, are you questioning my my professional abilities? Oh, no. I should have, because of course it wasn't finished. We had a big ceremony here, and that ceremony was exactly 12 years ago, I think. Sorry?
2009.
What?
2009.
Yeah, 12 years ago. About this time, Easter retreat. 12 years ago. And we had this big ceremony planned, lots of people coming, and after the ceremony, do a meditation retreat. And it was 5 o'clock at night, and the people doing the floor said, no, we can't finish it, we're going home. You know what, Australian workers? I've got to be honest about it. They tried to get somebody else, no, they couldn't come. What are we going to do? And to the rescue came the BBC. Jhana Building Company. And so the monks finished it off. They worked all night. I think maybe got an hour or two just of shut-eye, and then 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, start the big ceremonies. And what a great job that is. Sometimes when I look at that, there's a little mistake in the corner over there, which they pointed out, but I said, no, you can't sort of look at that as a mistake. Look at all that sacrifice you did all night so we could have a ceremony here. And that's what gives energy and beauty to this place. And it's also, it inspires, and that inspiration gives that energy. And that energy, you don't just waste it. You just start to just close your eyes and think just how beautiful it is that you're in a place like this. And that what I ask you to give is not money, it's not time, it's give your attention to this moment. Give attention to the moment and see what happens. And again with the kindness which this place was built. He said, all the animals here, we're trying to be kind to everything here. And I don't know if you see what happens when you're kind to animals. Have you seen that kookaburra on the fence over there? It's amazing. It's been in Jhana for I don't know how many years. But anyway, so little by little, with that kindness and with that attention, that gives the key to how to meditate. And I know that sometimes people want lots and lots and lots of instructions on how to meditate. But you don't need that many. Sometimes I feel all I would really need to do is just give about 15 minutes of instruction at the beginning of the retreat and then let you go. No more talks. If you could remember what those instructions were and apply them properly. And the best instructions on how to meditate, and I take this actually not from the sutras. It was a story which I read as a student when I was in Cambridge. In those days, it wasn't very stressful doing maths, which meant if you could do it, you could do it. If you couldn't do it, just all the study in the world wouldn't help. So I had lots of free time. So I remember going to the library, getting books out and reading them. And I liked Russian authors. So when I saw a book of stories, mostly just collected by the famous Russian Leo Tolstoy. But one of the stories in that book that really sort of shook me. And it did. One of those moments which changed your life. And that was the Emperor's 3 Questions story. And many of you know that. I say that a lot. I practice that a lot because it means so much to me. And in brief, just actually to go backwards a little bit, Leo Tolstoy, he collected all those stories. I think there's one from Chekhov, if I remember correctly, in that book. But anyway, he was doing a fundraiser for the Jewish community who were being badly discriminated against in Soviet Russia. And that was a fundraiser for them. But anyway, one of those stories in there, the Emperor's 3 Questions, about an emperor who had it up to here with religion. Always arguing with each other, always say that, my God in heaven is bigger than your God in heaven. And he lost a lot of faith in religion, but he realized its importance, some sort of spirituality. So he wanted to make up his own spiritual path. But being an emperor, he had authority to do that. So he read a lot, discussed a lot, consulted a lot, and in the end he realized there's only 3 questions you need to know the answer to. Many of you have heard this before. And first question is, when is the most important time? And this was 100 years before people like Eckhart Tolle. And it was about 2,400 years after the Buddha in the Bhaddekaratta Suttas started talking about the importance of the present moment awareness. But anyway, the most important time is always now. And when you say importance, it means you really give it value. Much more value than the past or the future. But as human beings, we value the past these days more than anything. The future is usually a bit scary, so don't value that much at all. We do make some plans, but we don't value the present. Not enough. You're here right now. Why plan for something else? Why spoil the present moment in this beautiful retreat center? Why spoil this because of some memory of the past, no matter how tragic or painful that was? You're here now. So value this so much that you can let go of the past. When you give value to important things, it means the other things just fade away, they don't grab you. And as I mentioned many times, you learn much more from the present moment than you will ever learn from the past. When you look at the past, you bend it to suit you. If you're in a bad mood, you start thinking of all the terrible things which happened to you or which somebody did. When you're in a really good mood, they're not that bad. So actually it's just simple things, you do bend the truth. It's not under your power to do otherwise, it's just the power of negativity or positivity. So when you look at the past, you can't trust it. Who did what? Who knows? Why did they do it? Who can be sure? So please, let it go. What you're doing now, yeah, you can be sure of that, it's actually happening. So we value this present moment more than anything else. We really do give it importance. And number 2, the next question was the one which really shook me. Who is the most important person? And the answer was, when I heard this, I thought, oh, wow, why didn't someone tell me that a long time ago? The most important person is not the Buddha, it's not God, it's not the Prime Minister or something. The most important person is the one right in front of you, right now, whoever that happens to be. The most important person, the one in front of you. And I don't know that you may have recognized this in your life. Sometimes you want to speak to somebody. They're important. You're just a small person. They say, no, later, go away. Story behind that, which I love telling. I remember the time I told this I think it was in Sulawesi, to a Muslim reporter, live on radio. And I heard her weeping. Maybe I went a bit too far, but she really got the story and she was crying. And the story was about the husband who came home from work. And his 6 or 7-year-old son was waiting for him. And when his husband came home from work, tired, the son asked him, Daddy, how much do you earn at work per hour? And the father said, look, it's none of your business. You're only a 6-year-old. And I'm just tired. I don't want any of this. Be quiet. Daddy, how much do you earn at work? Look, I told you, be quiet. I'm tired. Daddy, how many dollars do you earn? Right, that's it. 3 times. Up to your room. That was the time when you didn't have computers in your room. So sending yourself up to your room was a punishment. So he went up to his room. And the father shouted at his son 3 times. It's only because he was tired, because of work and traffic coming home. So when he'd had a cup of coffee and relaxed a bit, he felt really guilty. So went up to his son's room, knocked on the door, let himself in. And the son was happy to see his dad. He said, look, son, I'm sorry I shouted at you like that. Work is very tough and I'm really tired. I'm sorry. And I don't know why you want to know this, son. But I earn like $20 an hour at work. And the son smiled. I said, thank you, Daddy. Now, can I borrow $10, please? And you've already been angry at your son once. You don't want to do that twice. So he just bit his lip, got out his wallet, and got a $10 note out and handed it to his son. Here you are, son. Thank you again, Daddy. And then the son opened the little drawer next to his bed. There's some coins in there. And he counted out another $10, total $20, and handed it to his father. Now, Daddy, can I please have 1 hour of your time? And the journalist who was interviewing me, she was a single mum. I don't know what her husband did. And she was working so hard, doing extra hours to try and get enough money to get her son a good education. And that really hit her right in the heart. Because what the son really wanted, more than a good education, was time with his mum. How often We push someone aside. They're not really important because we're working hard for their education. Or I can talk to my husband later. Or I'm an important monk, so not now, I'll talk to you later. Has that ever happened to you? And you feel so rejected? It's like it's not fair that someone is not valuing you. And that's happened many times to me. Certainly when I was young, even at university, you had an important question to ask the professor or the lecturer. And you go up there and he said, it's in the book. And he'll walk away. I wasn't important. There was not a relationship there. And that just really hurt. So I apologize if I sometimes fail on that, but I really try hard. If you come up to me and ask a question, I really try and remember you are the most important person in the world because you're right in front of me. It's a great way of relating. It's mindfulness. You're aware not of where you want to be, but where you are and who's right in front of you. And the last part of this, and this is core meditation, which I'm going to point out in a moment. The last thing, what's the most important thing to do? People often ask in the interviews, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to meditate? Am I supposed to watch the breath? Or what happens if I get sleepy? What should I do? What happens if, that I get too many thoughts? What happens if I feel like I'm going crazy? What should I do? Ajahn Brahm, tell me what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes you say, just do nothing. But that doesn't really work, does it? Unless you're very skilled in the art of doing nothing. So instead, what Tolstoy said, and the most important thing to do, now's the most important time, the one in front of you is the most important person, the most important thing to do is to care. Simple answer. Just one word. That's the most important thing to do, is to care. And again, please excuse the story again, which many of you have heard, but it's a key story. That I've been here in Perth for as a monk, 37 years, 38 years now. And so many of the people who come every week, they started coming when they were that small. Actually before, in the womb sometimes, and you give them a blessing. And then they grow up with you. So you see them through school and they have little problems and difficulties. You try to sort it out with them, mum and dad. And this gentleman, he was a Sri Lankan. I won't say his name because a few Sri Lankans, you'll know him. And he did well at school. He wanted to become a doctor. So he did most of the stuff, being a doctor, but it's really hard work. But then he was on duty I think overnight. And then in the morning he came to Nolamara Temple to see me, urgent. And he said, I can't do this any longer. I'm going to have to resign and find another job. That was quite shocking to hear because imagine the amount of work it takes to be like a medical practitioner and how much stress he'd been through. And that's when I asked him what had happened. And it was tragic what had happened. One of his patients, he was in charge of her, it's a young woman. And something went wrong and didn't know what, and she died. It was one of those unexpected deaths. Obviously later on they did the autopsy and found out no one was at fault. But even though he was not at fault, he felt responsible. And this poor young man, maybe he was about 24, 25 at the time, he was the one who had to go to the woman's husband. And the husband had committed to this woman, the love of his life, and they're still very, very, very much in love. Until the news, unexpectedly, I'm sorry, but your wife has died. And to be the one who actually breaks that news is pretty tough. And even worse, the two children were next to the father. You've got no mummy anymore. And that was just so hard for him to do. And he did it, and then just left and came to see me and said, I can't do this ever again. He said, I'm a young doctor, it's going to happen again. And I just can't bear to do this. The pain is too much for me, just seeing the shock and the grief, the agony in that man and the kids. And I felt just so responsible. And of course, that's when I stopped and talked to him and told him, I misunderstood the purpose, the main purpose of being in the medical profession. Your job is not to cure people. Your job is to care for people. And if you think your main purpose is to cure, you are going to fail many times in your life. You have to fail. But if your main job is to care, you never need to fail. Even if a person doesn't make it, they die. They know they're being cared for. And a family knows they have a doctor, a surgeon, who's really cared for them a lot. That makes a whole difference when caring is the priority. And I also mentioned, this is how I understand things. It's not based on statistics, but I think it's pretty accurate. That if you make caring the first priority, curing the second priority, then many more people will get cured because of care. And that's just an example of the power of caring rather than curing. So what's this got to do with meditation? How's your meditation been so far in this retreat? Forget it. Go, my young. It's not important. The past is gone, it's finished. Go. How do you feel now? In the present moment, you're totally free to have the best meditation ever. Not me, I just can't meditate. No, it means in the past you haven't been able to meditate. It's got nothing to do with what's happening now. Honestly, this is just changing your perceptions. People make prisons of the past for themselves. They think they're no good. They think they're terrible meditators. They say, every time I meditate, I go to sleep. That's wrong speech. Most times you've meditated, you've gone to sleep in the past. Don't imprison your present from what's happened to you in the past. It's not really the best simile, but when I was a school teacher, I was taking this class in maths for 1 year. And it wasn't sort of an important, all classes are important, but this was not like the O-level class in the UK. It was just 1 or 2 years beforehand. And of course, the previous teachers had told me this boy, he'd come bottom of the class a year before, at the end of the year exams. He was hopeless at maths. He couldn't do maths. So he thought. And please excuse me, but I'm a bit rebellious. Always was, always will be, I think, I hope. All the best spiritual leaders are rebellious. Look what happened to Jesus. But I don't go that far. But anyway, so I thought, just because you got bottom of the class a year before, that doesn't mean you're stupid at maths. So I did this deliberately. I decided, let's do an experiment. See if that kid is bottom of the class because he's stupid or just because he doesn't believe in himself. So for the next year, it's only take off the holidays, about 8 or 9 months, every class which I taught, I would look at him, make eye contact. And when you walk down past his desk, I'd always stop at his desk. Do you understand that? Is that okay? And if he didn't, I said, look, this. Oh, thank you, sir. And every time he's sort of got a good score in some homework, oh, you're well done. At the end of the class, before he went out to play with his friends, said, is that okay? Do you really understand that? You're doing really well. I just gave him about twice as much attention as any other kid in the class. And again, I only tell the stories when they work. And this one, mate, he came top. The year in my class, he came number one in the class in mathematics. Of course, he felt really good about it, but I felt incredibly good about that. Simply because my ideas actually were working. There isn't a person in the world who can't do maths. There's many people who think they can't. When they believe in their past results and they imprison their present because of what happened in the past, then they're in trouble. So my whole job was to break him out of the prison of the past, of his past bad performances. So now he could be a good performer. And that's the same with meditation. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You can get nimittas and jhanas, you're just almost enlightened in the past. Oh, forget it. What's happening now? So the present is so incredibly important. And sometimes, look, I've done that many times. Sometimes you're meditating and I remember, hey, hang on. Just because the first half an hour has been terrible, doesn't mean this moment's going to be terrible. You sort of become aware, joyful, and then you're away into really good meditations. That's how you don't need to be a prisoner of the past. So, the one in front of you is the most important person in the world. Now this is even more profound in meditation. So, everyone close your eyes now. What are you aware of right now? Don't choose. That's choosing something for the future. Right now, what are you aware of? Whatever it is, that is the most important meditation object in the whole world. What you're aware of right now. You can open your eyes now. That's one of the reasons why when sometimes people say, oh, they've got sinus problems, they can't breathe through their nose or their mouth, or they're really sick and they've got aches and pains or fevers. I can't meditate, not when I'm sick, or when I'm really tired, I'm depressed, or whatever. Can you be aware of what's happening right now? In other words, you're not trying to get rid of this, neglect it for something more profound. You're right here with what's happening. Amazing things happen that you know. When you're right here with whatever's happening, even unpleasant stuff, tired stuff, negative stuff. When I start meditating, I'm going through a really good period at the moment, but I'm not getting old. I keep making that mistake. It's my 70th birthday in August. So when I told monks I'm getting old, they interrupted me. And they said, Ajahn Brahm, you're not getting old. And I thought, what a nice kind thing to say for my monks. So you're not getting old, you're already old. I accept it. So sometimes when you get on in years, sometimes you do have aches and pains and stuff. It's just part of having a body. And it's wearing out. That's one of the reasons why I like, things like chips and greasy food. You know why? Because, your joints need to be oiled. Okay, that's an excuse, I know. But anyway. So when you feel a little bit ache and pain here, a bit tired there, a bit tense there or whatever, that's my meditation object. It's right in front of me. You can't ignore it. You got a toothache. It's right in front of you. You can't say, no, I haven't got a toothache, I'm going to watch my breath. Breath right here. I can move it up here. And the breath gets pulled down here to where your toothache is. Whatever's in front of you is the most important thing in the whole world. It's easy. Then I could never accuse myself of wandering off anywhere. I'm right here. Just like, for people to wander off, the solution can be found in that little anecdote that when I used to go on aircraft and fly around the world, people said, what's it like flying? I said, I don't fly. I just sit down in my seat. I don't go anywhere. The plane does the flying. I just do the sitting. I don't go anywhere. I sit down in my seat and it's in Perth, and you open your eyes and you're in London. It's a different perspective on travel. I don't travel anywhere. I'm always here. When people say, Ajahn Brahm, I want to come to a monastery next week. Are you going to be here next week? So of course I'm going to be here. But for me, next week, here might be Melbourne. It's not just joking around. This is some profound wisdom in that. You are always here, aren't you? You're here manages to be so many different places. You're always here. So whatever you're aware of, that's the most important object in the whole world for you. So it makes it very easy to meditate, as long as you're meditating on what's right in front of you in this moment. And if it's something which is negative or something which is a bit distasteful, it's teaching you something. I respect everything which comes up. I know it will keep coming up until I learn its lesson. So maybe it's tiredness, and I've got to learn the lesson of tiredness. Why? I have made too much energy. I've got to learn its lesson. Why? I may have tummy ache. I've got to learn the lesson. Why? So everything I value, whatever's in front of you right now, is the most important thing in the whole world. And the next thing to do, what do you do with it? So many people try and get rid of it if it's unpleasant. I don't like it. I'm a monk. I should be in jhanas by now. That is stupid. Whatever I'm aware of right now, that is important. And I care for this. This kindness which I keep on at. Of course, I wasn't born a Buddhist. I knew nothing about Buddhism when I was growing up. Poor family, and I only found Buddhism, again, a bit rebellious, my first school prize when I was about 16 or 17 or something. 16, I think. And so my first school prize, I didn't know what to do. I asked my teacher, if it was for maths, he said, go get a maths book. So I went to the shop, and I saw these boring maths books. I said, I'm not going to waste my first school prize on that rubbish. I can get that from the library. So I went, this was in Foyle's bookshop in Tottenham Court Road. I went the other side of the street to the annex. And to the top story of the annex, about 5 or 6 stories, a long walk up, to the, almost like the forbidden section, where they had books on things like ghosts and different religions and spirituality and stuff. And just all the stuff which, was some people liked, but was a bit on the edge. And it was on the edge in those days. Because I didn't know anyone who was a Buddhist. Look, the place where, I told this story to the monks many times, the block of council flats where I lived, I remember I was about 10 or 11 years of age, and just the rumour, the scandal went through every flat in this block of flats. We all heard about it. One of these women, on the bottom story, you know what she was going to do? She was going to make spaghetti. And that was like a scandal. This was Britain, England. Good women don't make spaghetti. I don't know what else she gets up to. And she invited my father and myself and brother to go. I refused. My father and my brother went to eat it, and I thought, that's pretty scandalous. I don't know what else you're going to get up to. So that's actually how conservative everything was in those days. So Buddhism, that was really going a bit too far. If eating spaghetti was a bit sort of off the edge, the bigger Buddhist was way off the cliff. Anyway, so I got those books and read the books. Then what do you do next? And so it took a while to actually to learn just how to meditate. Any tradition was okay. I didn't choose because I didn't have the luxury of choice. But then, sometimes you were sick, sometimes you were energetic, sometimes you were tired. What do you meditate on? Had all these different instructions. Meditate on the breath. That was the most famous one. But how do you meditate on the breath? Tip of the nose. But I had hay fever. Sometimes my nose was blocked up. I didn't have any breath at the tip of my nose. I thought, I can't do meditation. Maybe next lifetime. And then I heard, no, you don't have to do it at the tip of the nose. You can do it at your belly. When I heard that, I said, yeah, I can meditate all year. So I started watching the belly. You know what happens? I don't teach that meditation here. And there's a good reason for that. Because if you watch your belly, especially in the evening, it's so close to your stomach, you get hungry. That's what happened to me. As a young man, I started watching my belly. I go up and go down with my breath. And I started getting really, 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 really hungry. So anyway, all those teachings, and then something's up here because people should be able to meditate at any time. And when I heard those teachings from the Emperor's Three Questions, all comes together. Does it really matter what you're watching as long as it's right in front of you right now? And you care for it. It's precious. You value it. You listen to it. And if you care for it, don't try and get rid of it. As I say, this is not about self-improvement. Here we go. See if you're not paying too much attention, so it has to be another joke. About the person who went to the bookshop. Asked the person on the reception desk, the front desk, said, I'm looking for the section on self-help books. And the person on the desk said, Sir, if I told you, it would defeat the purpose. So this is not a self-improvement, self-help retreat. What's wrong with you? Nothing. So what do you want to improve? It's just learn how to relax and be. Care for this moment. And then many people think, well, if I care for this moment, if I don't do anything, I won't get anywhere. Exactly. That's why I like the walking meditation. You know why walking meditation is really good? You start at the beginning, you walk all the way over there, and you walk back again. You don't get anywhere. Ajahn, what are you talking about? We come here to get jhanas and stuff. You don't get jhanas that way, trying to get them. Instead, you learn how to relax and be very peaceful. And when you do the Emperor's Three Questions meditation, now is the only time there is in the whole world. And what's right in front of you is the most important thing in the whole world. It's the only thing in the whole world. And the only thing for you to do is to care. Really care as much as you possibly can. Lovely compassion. The door of my heart is open to this moment. Come in. If I don't like it, it's teaching me something. If I do like it, wonderful, easy to stay with. Why do I want it to be any different? Because that means you're not doing anything. You're letting things be. You're not trying to get something better. Because you're caring for the most important moment in the whole world, even because you're calling it most important, it means you're happy to be here. Which means that your brain does rest. You put down the cup that way. The cup just goes down on the ground by itself. You're here. You're caring. And this, the most important thing, it's already here, so there's nothing you need to do. That means you really relax. That means that you don't make things happen. But what may start off with a very unpleasant object, this happens to me a lot. Old monk, just aches, pains, or whatever. And just you watch this. It's important, it's here. It's right now. Kind to it. And the body relaxes. What started off as an ache or a pain just disappears. Slowly, slowly, the ache, the negativity just disappears. And then your body is so nice and calm. Not an ache or pain in it. Kindness relaxes you. Allows healing to happen. Muscles get loose. Aches evaporate. When the body is at ease and rest, of course it disappears by itself. There's no business there. When there's no business, the mind goes inside. And you're kind to the past and the future. Well, actually, there's no past and future when you start this way. Whatever's happening right now, you're kind to that inside the mind. And of course, you get more and more peaceful. This moment is the most important. There's no sort of argument inside you what you're supposed to watch. Should I go watch the breath now, or should I go and do something else? Should I do this? Should I do that? If it's in front of you, that's the only thing you have to watch. You don't choose. You're just kind. Which means, again, hardly any business inside the mind. Which means the mind gets very calm. And this is one of the things I've been stressing. Actually, stressing is the wrong word to use, emphasizing. That when you become kind and peaceful, and your mind and the brain don't do very much, then the mind gets its energy back. The old going into the toilet and watching a number two going, wow, wow. Ooh. A few of the people have told me in interviews that you can experience your mindfulness improving, getting stronger. You can actually feel the wind, and it's like being brushed by a satin cloth as you walk back to your room. It's gorgeous. And the food, have you noticed the food tastes more delicious? If you have, it's a sign your mindfulness is improving. You can get more flavor out of it, and it's yummy. And then in your bed, how do you feel the blankets and the pillowcase? And it's gorgeous. Everything is improving. That's a sign that your mindfulness is increasing. That happens just in one meditation. You're just watching this present moment, and your mindfulness starts to really get strong. You see so much in this moment. And of course, that's where the breath comes from. The breath is always breathing in and out, in and out, in and out. Actually, not always, but most times. And it's what's left. So, again, you'll be able to see the breath naturally. It will just come to you. It's a stage in the meditation, not what you choose, but just what happens. Body is vanished. No thoughts of past and future. This beautiful, gentle breath just going up and down. It's in this moment. You're just kind to it. You never try and chase it away or bring it back. It's your friend. You give it freedom. If you give something freedom, it usually loves to stay with you. Little by little, that breath gets more and more refined, more and more beautiful, more and more gorgeous. It is, I used to call it, when I first started describing this, as the beautiful breath. But now I call it delightful breath. I think it's more accurate. You're breathing in. Oh, so delightful. There's one of the monks, still alive, a great monk. He spent a range retreat here so many years ago. That's the Ajahn Ganha. And in those days, I remember we used to ask him, can you teach meditation? Because he's a great meditator. Can you teach meditation, please, for us? And he did. So quickly. All he'd say was, sit down, close your eyes, and breathe in, Sabah. Then breathe out, Sabah. And that was it. So kind of give us some more instructions. He said, that's enough. Sabah means like beautiful, gorgeous, cool, wonderful, lovely. The most delightful breath you've ever breathed in your whole life. Sabah. Oh. Do that on purpose. Give it some willpower. I don't usually say that, but try that now. Close your eyes and will yourself to breathe in the most gorgeous breath you've ever breathed in your whole life. And once you breathe it in, then breathe it out. Sabah. Only one breath, you can open your eyes. Were you mindful of that? My mindfulness was really strong when I'm breathing in Sabah, because it's delightful, joyful. And it's this amazing little teaching. Simple, but enough. Because what happened was you carried on like that and you really liked breathing in Sabah and breathing out Sabah. So much so that you carried on breathing like that for hours. Well, actually not really, because after a while just the Sabah, the joy, just got stronger. So what happens when you start getting lots of delight and bliss in the mind? Again, that's usually people interpret that this is like nimittas and stuff. Nimittas come up in your mind. You don't go searching for them. You don't go sort of looking for them. Where are they gone? They're around somewhere. If they come, they come. And if they do come, what happens? What do you do with the nimitta if it comes? Too often people say, nimitta, yes! The deep states of meditation are very shy. I like saying shy because if you say their name, nimitta, then they rush away. You've got to keep cool. And the only thing to do is to care for them. They're here right in front of you, they're really important, not because they're nimittas, but because they're right in front of you. And the only thing you ever do is care for them. Nothing else. If they want to leave, fine. Because caring doesn't mean you imprison somebody. You care for them. I don't know those of you who've got a partner in this world. Do you ever feel your partner imprisons you? Or do they care for you? What's the difference? If you care for somebody and the person knows you're cared for, you can go off to a retreat if you want to, but please come back. They don't imprison you. And if they really care for you, you're going to go back. There was this person who kept a bird in a cage. Always kept the cage door locked. Was afraid the bird would fly away. And one day, it will happen after a while, just accidents. The cage door was left open, the bird flew away, never came back. The second person had a bird in a cage, always kept the cage door open. The bird can go off whenever it wanted to. But inside the cage was delicious food and water and lots of things to play with. He really cared for that bird. Do you think the bird ever flew off? Because it was cared for, the bird realized, who wants to go anywhere? Just in our caretaker's in a caretaker's house in Nollamara, where Lynn Jackson stays. I remember doing this funeral once for a person. It's in Nollamara Temple. And at the end of the funeral, the funeral company released the birds, the doves. It's quite a moving little ceremony. Release the doves, and the doves fly off into the air and free the spirits, whatever you want to call it, of the person who's died. But of course, those birds have been well trained. They fly back to the funeral parlour. They get fed, that's their job. And they understand that. But what happened is one occasion, again, the reason I tell the story, so about 5 or 6 doves, and they all flew off and they all headed back to the funeral parlour, but one stayed. They stayed there for months next to Lynn's house, because obviously realised, well, this Buddhist society is really good. People are really kind there, they look after you, they feed you, they love you. And it stayed there for a long time. So that's if you care for things, things want to stay with you. So little by little, you care for these nimittas. That's all. Never try and control them. If they want to go off, let them go off. They're almost like they're testing you. Do you really care for me, or are you trying to own me and control me? And after a while, you just care for them, and they hang around. They like you. And then you really sort of do well in meditation. And as little by little, that shows the body is usually vanished. If it's not totally vanished, it's like it's many, many miles away, your body. You can sort of feel it, but actually it's not the feelings in the body. They usually go pretty easily. It's the sounds. But the sounds are usually, if you do hear any sounds, they just don't disturb you, and they're just a long way away until the sounds totally vanish. And all you've got left is just this beautiful nimittas. And that gives you so much bliss. And eventually that gets still enough, that stays. You don't do anything other than, in the present moment, giving this moment importance and being kind. Eventually the bliss, to be kind to something as powerful as bliss is very hard. It's exciting. But with training, you're just kind to the bliss. You don't want to improve it. You don't want to, did you have a kind parent in your life who said, it doesn't matter what happens to you at school. You're my son. The door of my heart's always open to you. It doesn't matter. Grade A, B, C, D, E, F. What does F mean at school anyway? Fantastic. That's what it means. E means excellent. A stands for arrogant. Just mess around like that, just so that people can take the importance of being graded by somebody else. You know who you are, what you've done, how you are. But when you're kind to things, that's where you get the journey into the deepest of meditations. Beautiful kindness. And then the nimittas, you just go right inside them. That's the jhanas. You can't be kind. You have to, otherwise it's just an attainment, something you do. Kindness is what happens when you vanish. You're selfless. You're not in the picture anymore. You vanished, disappeared. And kindness is all that's left. And in these beautiful, beautiful, blissed out states. And you learn so much from there. Little frog, now not a tadpole anymore, knows how to jump out of the lake, knows what it's like outside the lake. So many insights. It's like you found the gold mine. And just there's so many insights, nuggets, diamonds, whatever, which are just lying right in front of you. You just pick them out and get insights, get wise. And I think you should know that. Deepest meditation you get, just insights are easy. Mind is powerful. And it's just all out there for you. Okay, that's how to meditate. Simple. And you can have a fever with typhus fever. You can be old and dying. You can be just really sick and fed up. Now is the most important time. It's the only time there ever has been. the right thing in front of you, whatever you're aware of right now. It may be really painful. Doesn't matter. It's here right now. It's important. And care for it. Very simple, but highly effective. Okay. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, very good. So, please have a nice time. We're going to have some interviews now. And any questions? Yeah, you're all welcome to put a question in the box there, but as you see, I cannot guarantee they'll be answered. So if you've got one question in there already, it hasn't been answered, maybe just don't put a question in today. Okay, here's another anecdote about questions. Sometimes, you have important questions. And there's this time when I had all these questions, and I was going to go and see one of the greatest I don't mind saying this, greatest enlightened monks I've ever seen. And it's a monk called Ajahn, and he was soon to die. I had all these questions, and even I had to wait for my appointment with him. When I got into his room, after waiting, I'd done it quite a couple of days, and he gave me his full attention. All these questions I'd prepared for days, realizing this was the only chance I'd ever have of asking these questions. Every one of those questions vanished, evaporated. He blasted me with loving kindness. So powerful, so peaceful. So that was the answer to every one of my questions. All answered in one. What do you want a question for? That was really ridiculous because I felt so embarrassed. So what's your question? They've gone. They weren't answered with more ideas. They were answered with stillness and kindness. That's powerful. Anyway, so those of you who haven't got any stillness or kindness yet, you can write something on a piece of paper for me. Okay, so anyway, let's finish off now, otherwise I get into trouble. Sadhu, 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 ha ha ha. Okay.